Okay, this is Keystone. I am the optimistic quadriplegic, and I am at Mary Freebed Hospital where I first came after my accident. And I am with Ashley McKnight, Dr. Ashley McKnight, who was my occupational therapist when I was here. She no longer works here, but she was gracious enough to come back and meet us, and I appreciate that.
Of course.
And let's just talk. Tell me your story about when I first got here and what I could and couldn't do and what you thought maybe I could someday do.
Sure. Well, when Keith first came, when he first came to Mary Freebed, after doing an evaluation, we noticed that Keith had a lot of tone and spasticity. He had very little movement in his upper extremities, so his upper limbs or shoulders, elbows, hands, and wrists. He had a nice shoulder shrug that he could do. Couldn't quite bring the hand to the mouth, so bending up the elbow was very minimal. Reaching across the body was very hard. There was really no finger movement present. Maybe a small amount of finger movement. Keith, can you remember how much?
No, I don't think so.
And then the wrist was pretty poor as well. So we didn't have much to work with, so we kind of began our treatment plan with adapting things and modifying things for you so that he could begin to use his arms. So we adapted a toothbrush for him so that we could work on bringing the hand to the mouth, and some adapted utensils so he could work on that too. We worked on adapting his deodorant so he could start working on bringing his arm across the body. So we kind of started adapting and modifying things. So with that, another thing to mention is that Keith is right hand dominant, but his left hand had more movement and was a little stronger. So a big part of the learning was kind of getting him back to using his right hand for some of his basic tasks or basic ADLs, things that you did on a daily basis. And the point of that was to tap into his memory, that things that his body's been doing for years, and we were trying to get him back to doing the things that he used to do. So that's part of the neuroplasticity or the muscle learning that we were trying to work on with Keith. Then after doing that for a little while, you did start to have some increased strength and movement. Alongside of the adapting and modifying, there was another approach we were also taking. So we were also working on, we applied electrical so about 8 electrodes to each upper limb. And it was combined on a bike called the RTI bike. And so he did this repetitive cyclic cycling for about a 30-minute duration. It was really like a 60-minute treatment session.
Took us 15 minutes to set up
and take
15
down.
to tear down. Sarah was expert at doing one arm.
Yeah, we got the hang of that, right? We got into routine. So he would cycle, and we were trying to work on just educating his muscles and getting some more movement back. So we did a little remediation at the beginning, and then also working on some restoration then with things like the cycling. We also did a lot of stretching because he had a lot of tone and spasticity. So it was my pleasure. I got to start my day out with Keith every day. So I'd come into his room. He was my second patient of the day, and he was always in a good mood. And I would say, "Good morning, Keith." And
well, and that's funny because that's what I remember. 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and here would come Ashley, and you'd always be smiling, and you'd always be chipper. So I couldn't help but be chipper. I had to right back at you.
So
I remember that. Yeah.
We did. It was a great time in the morning. My favorite part of the morning, actually. So we would start, and we would do some of your grooming and your brushing your teeth, and we'd always he'd work on getting his own shirt on. And his wife Sarah would always have it laid on the end of the bed for us, so it was very easy. She always had something picked out for him to wear for the day. And we would get your shirt on, and then we would spend the rest of the session just stretching. And that was a big thing for Keith. Stretching was hard because of the tone.
Remember, we would do this stretch across, and I would cuss you out all the time.
Yeah, we would.
That one hurt.
There was a lot of facial grimacing going on, yes. But it was always really beneficial. And still to this day, we're talking about even post the injury, how important that stretching still is for your home program and how it really does help manage the tone. And the other thing, too, because the hand function wasn't, his hands weren't functioning as they did before the injury, we had to work on fitting him for some splints and getting some orthoses so that he could have a good joint health and also preventing deformity, after many years down the road. So that was another thing that we had to really work on with Keith as well.
Yep, and we did the silverware, like the dining with dignity, that I still use today. Hooks around my index finger and my thumb, and as long as I get my hand up there, we're good.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Did you see that nice elbow flexion there? The hand and mouth. That was not present when Keith first came. That was a big deal.
You're right, and it still is. So, I guess I remember when people that were on Caring Bridge and that were following me when I was a Mary Free Bed, every day it was pray for my hands, because we got spoiled. My legs came back in 2 months. We said, well, it should only be another 2 months, and my hands and my arms will come back. But that's still not the case. But I don't think that's surprising, right? The hands seem to be the last thing to come back. When you see a person in a wheelchair, I'm kind of lucky. Usually you see the hands all balled up, and they can't get them to open at all. So I think I'm a little bit lucky.
And that's part of your joint health that we really focused on at the beginning with you, is to help you so that you didn't have that deformity or the contractures happening. So that was a big piece of the puzzle.
And we started that at Northern McLaren. Remember, we were exercising your hands when you were still on the ventilator.
Yeah.
But it's just good for circulation and that range of motion that happens in the hands. So yes, and then you can work on things with like this silverware and then bringing that hand to mouth, which then again is really wonderful. But I do remember you picking up a potato chip one day, and that was a really big, exciting day when you were able to pinch that potato chip and you said, Ashley, look at this, and you brought it up to your mouth, and that was really cool, a really cool day. So I still remember that. And then we were talking about your dino chicken nuggets that he would always eat for lunch because they were really easy for you. You didn't have to cut them. Right. You could stab them and then bring them to your mouth. So you kind of modified your own day routine to make it things that you were more independent with, because when you were by yourself eating, like, you could manage that meal. So that was really cool too. And the other thing I have to mention, a good memory I have of you, Keith, is your room. It was beautiful. It was not the typical room in a hospital. There was cards everywhere, and that big sign that you had all your coworkers sign on your bathroom door. And at the holidays, it was decorated, and his wife Sarah always had a lamp on in the room, so it was really cozy and charming in there.
And there was always candy in there.
And the famous candy bowl. Yeah. And people would come by and
that's how you got people in the room.
Yeah. So it was really lovely working with Keith. In many ways, not just one. So that was really, really cool. And the other thing I have to tell you that I loved and I really appreciated from you and Sarah is whenever I would do education, like family education, I would give you a handout or something. And the next day I came and Sarah had a binder with tabs. And I said, if all my patients could keep all of their information, and you would pull up that binder and it would be tabbed and organized, and it was so beautiful and helpful. And
it was helpful to us.
She still has binders by the dozens, and she has a calendar, and every day, what did we do today, Keith? Which is nice to look back and say, when did I was able to do that and stuff like that. So it's good.
Yeah, so lots of good memories from our time together.
Yep. And again, this is the first time I've seen you.
Yes, since you left, yeah.
Yep. And so it's great that I was able. We're glad we could have a reunion. I think about you all the time.
I think about you as well, Keith.
Yeah. So, just thank you for taking the time, and good luck.
Of course, it was my pleasure. Good luck to you as well.
And talk about how important her as an OT has been to you, that she's the best OT that we've seen.
Well, that's true. That's
you're
true.
So kind.
Yeah, you've kind of spoiled me.
Yep.
So now I expect everybody else to do what you did. But
kind.
Just like you are today, you're always smiling, always very nice. I don't think you ever frowned or had a bad day or anything. So whether you
even staying up late during your papers.
Yeah, you were doing your doctorate degree
yes.
while you were doing it.
Came in with a smile.
That was hard work.
Oh,
and
so
raising
kind.
at the time 2 kids, two young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Heard lots of stories about your oldest Lila and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was fun. So we were kind of like a family. And,
We were.
And I'm glad we were united, so we'll continue to be a family.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Well, thanks again,
Thanks,
Ashley.
Keith.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.